Ever since New Horizons launched in 2020, there's been a point of contention among the fans that to this day hasn't really subsided. It's this idea that somehow this version of Animal Crossing is unfinished or incomplete. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and disregard how light on content New Horizons was in 1.0, but it's always been pretty confusing to me to hear this specific critique. This is the very same Animal Crossing game that for the first time let us place furniture outside and terraform our islands. A change unto itself that, at least for me, has added hundreds and hundreds of additional hours to this specific game in the franchise. Personally, I've never considered New Horizons to be like a particularly broken game, but I got this comment recently from a user known as a non-user 27, which normally I'd blur their name for this, but they kind of took care of that for me. Why are people so desperate to spend money on a new console and a new game instead of improving what they already have? I wish they'd fix New Horizons, although they probably won't, and I don't think the next Animal Crossing for the Switch 2 will be as good as New Leaf. Now, I'm not calling out this a non-user specifically here because I've seen this notion dozens and dozens of times since I started playing New Horizons back in 2020. This idea that the game needed to be fixed or was broken. And it's always been baffling to me, but especially after the 2.0 update. But at the same time, I appreciate that I am a hopeless Animal Crossing fan, and that my bias towards this game is going to have me seeing it with rose-colored glasses at every given turn. And I think that bias is keeping me from really appreciating the perspective of all the non-users out there who feel this way. So I decided to go over to my community tab and just ask this question and kind of start up a conversation. And responses I got were actually really, really interesting. Now, at the time of recording this, 3.0 hasn't released yet, but it's going to very, very soon. So I kind of pitched it as like, is 3.0 going to bring the changes to New Horizons that you've been wanting to see? Do you think it's a broken game? And some of the comments here, again, very interesting. This user says, this is nitpicky for sure, but it bothered me that there wasn't a third upgrade to the Nook store. Having only one shop upgrade bothers me. And this is one I've seen a few times, and this kind of did sway my opinion a little bit because, yeah, every Animal Crossing game that came before this one had 3 or 4 different shop upgrades. And I always loved that. I always loved seeing the store get larger, but it wasn't just the fact that the store was changing and it felt like your town was changing. It was the fact that the store physically offered more things. It became more valuable to you as you spent time there. And it made the nonsensical economy of Animal Crossing feel like at least it had like some direction to it, like it made some sense. This particular take here, I do agree with. And people have been speculating that 3.0 could add shop upgrades. So I'd be very curious to see if that happens. I'm not holding out any hope for it. They didn't put in the trailer, but that would be really, really cool. The next most liked comment has just kind of a nice numbered list here. I'm not going to read everything, but it says their 3 major gripes would be character dialogue. I've heard this one 1,000 times. Store upgrades, like the previous comment, and fruit. And this comes up a few times. People would like to be able to get all the different fruits in the game without Nintendo Online, and I think that is totally fair as well. But one thing I want to focus on, because the dialogue gets brought up a few times in this thread, I want to talk about that a little bit, because the dialogue in previous Animal Crossing games is very, very interesting to me, because as a player of all the games, I do feel like New Horizons did offer less dialogue than other games, and I don't think that's a hot take. However, I do want to point a couple of things out, and I'm going to go into New Leaf and test it. I have it up right now, and I want to walk around my town and see if we can make this happen. But playing New Leaf, playing other games, it's not like I never run into repeat dialogue. It's this idea that the villagers had more life and personality to them in the older games that really intrigues me, because the thing about the older games is that because you couldn't place furniture outside and terraform like you can now, I spent less time in those games than I tend to spend in New Horizons. In New Horizons, my daily list of chores feels a lot longer, especially if I'm working on a particular design project. I'm trying to make more money, I'm trying to collect more items, so I am spending more hours in the game, which means there's more opportunities for me to interact with villagers. And it made me ask the question, I'm sure somebody out there knows this, but does New Horizons have just as much dialogue as the other games? So I have my old New Leaf town pulled up here, I've switched microphones, we're just gonna try this for a bit. I wanna talk to some villagers in my town, and I just wanna see if I can get them to repeat some dialogue. Like, what if I was just playing the game like I used to back in the day, and I kind of check in on everybody and see how they're doing. Keaton's excited to see me after a long time. I thought maybe you had something against me, so I'm Keaton. Oh, and then, yeah, specifically, I'll have some new villagers too, because they did just move away from your town without you having any intervention at all back in the day. Seems quiet today, huh? Like, too quiet. And we can just ask to talk? Oh boy, rumors are scary, don't you think? Apparently Pashmina and I are. Well, let's just say people think bad blood's gone down between us. But if you expect me to tell you all the details of this little scandal, oops, no more comments from me. Oh boy, rumors are scary, don't you think? Apparently Frank and I are. Well, let's just say people think bad blood's gone down between us. But if you expect me to tell you all the details of this little scandal, oops, no more comments from me. Okay, so listen, couple things. I know I just spoke to Keaton for like the first time ever, and maybe we haven't had enough experiences together yet for him to have a lot of dialogue to pull from, but I've only been at this for a couple of minutes, and this is the first villager I'm talking to in New Leaf, and in no time flat, I was able to get a repeat bit of dialogue where the only thing that changed was the name of the villager. There's also not a lot of like good storytelling here, because first it was Pashmina, then it was Frank. So does Keaton have bad blood with everybody? Why didn't Keaton remember that he just said this about Pashmina? And he could have even referenced it and said, hey, like, I told you about the bad blood between me and Pashmina, but I just don't want you to think that everyone hates me. But rumors are also spreading about me and Frank having bad blood. I know that's like a level of sophistication that is going to be a lot more harder to program, but when we talk about dialogue in a video game and it being more immersive and feeling better, I don't think the answer is to just so quickly go back to dialogue that was just used a few minutes ago. Speaking of shop upgrades, if you're newer to the Animal Crossing series, never played New Leaf, this is the finished Nook's store. Leaf gets his like own place, and then eventually it merges into the Nook's Emporium. But yeah, I think this thing has like 3 floors, including like the ground floor, and that is wild. And so we have the furniture up here, but I will say, I didn't think of this before. This is all the wallpaper and flooring they offer. Just 2 wallpapers and 2 floors in the maxed out store in New Leaf. We get way more than that in New Horizons in the cabinet. And okay, how many pieces of furniture? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of furniture. Whereas right now we get 3, and then sometimes we get like the little bonus item in the corner of the shop, and then there's always the 2 smaller pieces of furniture that sit on top of a table. I mean, that's 5 regularly, and this is 5. It's kind of interesting. We want a larger store, and I agree, I want a larger store too, but the Nook's Cranny we have right now in New Horizons, when you include wallpapers and floors and stuff like that, it actually might offer more. Going up to the 3rd floor though, things get a little more interesting. Gracie is here. We would love to see Gracie come back. I think someone even leaves a comment about that. And we get all this different clothing and really high-end expensive furniture that we can't normally find. And that would be, I think, a worthwhile upgrade to our current Nook's layout. Even just one more shop upgrade with Gracie would be so cool. So this is 68,000 bells. The Gracie had like the furniture that you would like aspire to get. And there's like a few sets that I think rotate here that are really fancy and high end. Oh, we got, okay, a couple people here. We have Lily. Huh, is that you? Everyone has been so lost without our mayor. As the leader of Vidville, I feel it's your duty to let everyone in town know you've returned. I'm trying. And then we have, I always forget your name, Bam. Are you the real Dan? Wow, I'm so glad you're back. Everyone was really worried. It turns out no one knows what to do when the mayor disappears suddenly without saying anything. This is like a really nice touch of New Leaf. Like they at least act like they're depending on you and your leadership. I'm very excited about the possibility of working out with you now that you're here. If I'm not mistaken, Keaton is also a jock. So yeah, this might be an interesting experiment to see, like, if you have 2 jocks, are you going to get a lot of repeat dialogue? I'm bored. Yeah, I've been working my biceps like crazy lately. I'd love to show off for some out-of-towners. You should invite some friends from other towns to come and see the gun show. The guns are my muscles, of course. Okay, all right, so pretty typical dialogue there. Okay, first bit of repeat dialogue here. I've been working on my biceps like crazy lately. Love to show off some of my out-of-towners, invite your friends. Now, to be fair, I am trying to push the limit and get them to repeat themselves, so this isn't like the most fair or scientific process ever done, but I do think it kind of proves my overall point that New Leaf also didn't have like so much dialogue that it never repeated itself. But okay, back to the comments. So there's still a lot of stuff in here I want to talk about. One says, I want unlimited inclines and bridges. I think that's totally fair. I wouldn't put that in the category of like, and therefore New Horizons is broken, because we can't do that, but I don't think they are either. It's just, I like that as like an addition to the game. I don't see why there's a limit at all. From someone who hasn't played other Animal Crossing games, they want to be able to place items at angles in addition to the 4 directions we already can. My personal opinion here is that this is probably one of the next groundbreaking features of a sequel to New Horizons. I really feel like terraforming land and rivers and things like that was already like, whoa, you know, that was a huge leap for the game. I don't see why the game wouldn't make another huge leap in the future, be it a 360 camera, kind of like in Dinkum, or having like items that you can put at an angle. I think that would be awesome. Make gold tools unbreakable. This is one that I wouldn't say makes New Horizons a broken game, but yes, I know this annoyed a lot of people. It was definitely a design choice. This was not like an accident. I like New Horizons, but I miss how the villagers were less accepting at first and then grew more familiar. This was definitely a hallmark of the GameCube version, and I think the DS version that followed it as well. I miss the romance drama at the post office, as well as going going to the post office, the second floor salon, and the other shops. Also, if Harv's had upgrades from vans to rustic storefronts, that would be fun. That would be pretty cool. That'd be like a miniature shop upgrade for every single person on Harv's Island. If you like spend enough money with them, I would like that a lot. Villager dialogue, extremely bland. From Robert, it says the main criticism I hear from old-time fans, in short, is that Animal Crossing is more and more changing from a life sim to a decoration sim. Now, this is probably something that I think needs to be explored a lot, because I see exactly where Robert's coming from here. From what I understand, the older games, you had less control over villagers in your town. Yes, we just saw that Keaton just moved in, someone else moved away. I don't even know who it was. I just hadn't played in a while, and someone's gone now. There were more interactions with villagers and NPCs, and they warm up to you more. Again, yes, something that happened certainly in the older games, they'd warm up to you. One of the interactions is kind of missing in New Leaf and New Horizons that I used to do as part of my life sim kind of hanging out in the town thing, was I used to be able to go up to a villager, and there was like, how are you doing? And usually it was like an option that was like, oh, never mind, goodbye. And there's a middle option. Hey, do you need anything? Like, can I do you a favor? And most of the time, there would be something you could do for them. This is something they kind of moved away from, and I don't know why. I feel like it was something we could have expanded on, but instead we stopped doing the favors for villagers almost altogether. Like, I know there are favors you can do for villagers today, but usually it's kind of random. You'll talk to them and go, hey, do you want to buy this from me? Or I think sometimes it's a fetch quest, but for the most part, you could just kind of trigger a fetch quest almost on demand in the older Animal Crossing games. They were repetitive. I don't think they were like super fun and interesting, but I do think that removing them was like not the right call. I think we could have expanded on them a lot more. Instead, now we have decorating and terraforming, and that's awesome, but I didn't want to trade that. I think we should have also gotten the ability to enjoy our cool decorated islands by going up to different villagers. Instead of decorating that day, I just want to do some favors for some people and hang out. One thing that New Leaf had that really didn't make it into New Horizons was like this whole slew of mini games, and that also kind of adds to the more life sim side of the discussion over the decorating side. But those mini games were, they were kind of boring. I thought that the next Animal Crossing would make them even more fun. Maybe the villagers in the future should be the ones triggering that. Maybe instead of doing fetch quests, you can talk to someone and go, hey, I'm up for a game, I'm bored. Something that when you say you're bored, that actually triggers an event. Kind of like the treasure hunts we get now, but like way more events. Maybe there's like a little foot race you can do or stuff like that. I think one of the games even had foot races. I can't remember. But I want to see more stuff like that because I want more reasons to hang out on my Animal Crossing island after I finish decorating it. But right now, it's like I decorated my island. I don't really have much more to do unless I give myself a project. And so I can absolutely see where Robert's coming from and anyone who has that criticism is coming from. Again, I don't think that makes the game broken, but I do think it leaves a lot of opportunities for like the next Animal Crossing game. Skipping ahead here, my perfect New Horizons with more dialogue, more varieties of fruit, and perfect fruit. Also, most of the characters in Harv's would have the option to build their own shops. So, yep, that's something we already saw. I agree, that'd be a lot of fun. I miss Gracie and her shop. I'd love to see different fruits return. And yeah, there used to be not only the fruits that we already have, but like they brought in all these tropical fruits in New Leaf, and I think we were all expecting those to definitely be in New Horizons, and they weren't. It was kind of a weird choice. I'm pleased with the changes that are coming in the update, but one thing I'd like to see is the ability to change the color of Nook's Crane and Able Sisters. This would be really cool. And again, something that I would have thought would have been in New Horizons, because this right here is not what Town Hall used to look like back in the day. This was an upgrade I did to Town Hall. There was like 4 different choices of what I can make my town look like. So that's Town Hall. And then I did a similar update to the train station. So the train station has like a more modern, sleek look. And I thought with this system in New Leaf, the next game would certainly allow us to do this again, but with more choices. We only got like 3 or 4, and I was imagining that, when I was younger playing this, like, oh my gosh, imagine what the next game is going to have and all the cool customizations we could do to the outside of buildings. Mini games. At least that would be my answer. People like mini games. I've said this before. I like mini games too, but if you go back and play the mini games in New Leaf, I will say the mini games are kind of boring. It's just like catch a certain amount of bugs as fast as you can, dig in these little spots or find the hidden item. Like they could have been built on, and I think they should have been built on. I don't think, again, they should have been removed, but the mini games, when I went back and finally played them after playing New Horizons, I was like, oh, these weren't as like good as I remember. But 3.0 is giving us the ability to play the little game consoles, and that to me is a more life sim kind of like feature that we were talking about from the earlier comment. Being able to kind of like hang out on my island instead of just playing the game because I want to decorate is important, and I think 3.0 is kind of getting us there at least. A purpose for cooking. We can decorate and eat it, but it still feels half done. There could be so much more, like cooking villagers their favorite foods. I love that. That's a good idea. More to do with Brewster in the coffee shop. Again, feels half done. Sure, we can go there every day and drink coffee, but that's about it. We could already amiibo in villagers at Harv. So yeah, fair enough there. In New Leaf, they have an option to actually actually do a mini game as part of the coffee shop. I don't know why they got rid of that. Bulk clothing buying. This is something that would be very, very nice. I'm fully on board with Kiwi Cat's comment. I'm currently playing New Leaf and enjoying myself. However, compared to New Horizons, I feel it's definitely lacking in many aspects. Am I saying New Horizons is better? No. Am I saying New Leaf is better? Also no. They each have great parts and they're fun, but also given up something to get something else. I'm excited to see the next installment of the series. This is exactly where I'm at. I think the next installment can build on both games as a foundation if it wants to, and I'm hoping it does. Almost done reading comments, but the gripe being about it being more of a decorating sim and not a life sim has come up again. And yeah, I think that is something worth kind of harping on for a minute, because other games that pitch themselves as life sims, I guess The Sims being a great example, when they have an update, and The Sims has a lot of updates, they don't just give you new furniture items to decorate with. They're always rooted in some kind of activity that your Sims can do. Usually it's like a new type of job they can get, or a place they can go, a place they can vacation, a cruise, a school, a whatever. And I think The Sims is kind of trying to build like an entire life for your character to have. They know that people aren't always going to be using that side of their brain for decorating. They want to use the other side of their brain sometimes that presents them a game where there's other challenges to solve. I need to get my sim a certain level in a certain skill so I can do a certain thing or buy a certain item. I want my sim to gain a lot more money or things like that. And a lot of it comes back to decorating. The money is used to buy more decorations and whatever, but it does feel more like a life sim. And Animal Crossing is the Nintendo version of a life sim. But it's fair to say that the older games had like other stuff to do besides decorating because we couldn't place things outside. We couldn't terraform. So they needed to do that. As we enter this 3.0 era for Animal Crossing, I wonder if the updates we get will be enough to finally get this like notion that New Leaf was somehow better than New Horizons that some people hold really dear to finally go away. It probably won't. Haters gonna hate. But I personally find this criticism really hard to ignore when I see it, because I also do want, like so many of these comments, more out of New Horizons. There's just, we all see it. We all see these incredible opportunities to expand on it. And at least with 3.0, we are finally seeing some of those opportunities realized. But overall, like seeing these comments has really helped me understand the critique that people give in this space like quite a bit, that the game it feels unfinished or things like that. The one thing I can't stand though is the negativity when these comments do come up. And they're not always really negative. These comments were great, but I'm sure you've seen it. There have been a lot of people just being negative because, well, that's the internet. The thing is though, like whether you like it or not, Nintendo made some really big strides with New Horizons that they didn't make before. And critics of the game might see that as like the game moving in a certain direction, but I guess I see it a little bit differently. Now that we can terraform islands and shape our rivers however we want, why would it have to stop there? They are probably going to put that system in the next game, and they're probably going to build on top of it. But the next game will be built likely for the Switch 2, which will have better hardware, or the Switch 3, which will have even better hardware, which means more opportunities to do even more with it. I'm not saying they will, but I'm just pointing out that the internet like has a tendency to go to the worst case scenario every time, like the really, really hyper negative stuff. Sometimes it's to karma farm, and sometimes it's just a trauma dump because we're just like so passionate about this game and we want it to be so much more. But I have hope, and the reason I have hope, and I don't think it's cope, is because I went back recently and played the very first Animal Crossing game they ever released, and not the one for GameCube. In Japan only, Nintendo made Animal Crossing for the N64 first, under the name, which I will butcher, Dopsu Nomori. If you think that New Horizons is light on content, I want you to keep in mind that this first version of Animal Crossing had fossils and no museum to put them in. It was basically a tech demo of what Animal Crossing could be and what the GameCube game eventually was. And ever since that version of the game, Nintendo, for the most part, has only used the previous Animal Crossing game to build a better Animal Crossing game. Yes, there were features from New Leaf that didn't quite make it into New Horizons, but I still maintain that the things we got out of New Horizons that weren't in the previous games were a step in the right direction. And now with 3.0, I think we're getting even more features that were left out from New Leaf and are now finally making it into New Horizons. Maybe to some that won't be enough and New Horizons will still feel broken, but whether it is or not, it feels like Nintendo is listening, at least a little bit. And for all we know, 3.0 isn't even the end. What I'm certain of though is that I want to spend my time enjoying the game, warts and all, because I love it and I love playing it. I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody who did reply to my question in the community tab. I know I was kind of opening the door to more of that negativity I want to avoid, but I was really impressed with the amount of thoughtful, constructive like criticism that was levied towards the game and conversations that we had about the game. Feel free to continue that discussion in the comments of this video, and I will see you in the 3.0 update. Thanks for watching.